Over the last month, I've had the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway in mind more often than usual, thanks to the videos I made about the L-Class 464 tank and Portshaven Branch. Speaking of Portshaven, today's topic is a locomotive that's prominently featured in that video. The D1 Class 042 tank engine was brought to Train Simulator by Caledonia Works, and the main thing that drew me to this pack was the sheer amount of model variations, which helped me to learn more about the D1 class than I had ever previously known. William Stroudley designed his D1 tank engines as an improvement upon his famous A1 Terrier class of 1872. The D1s were built at either Brighton Works or Neilson and Company of Glasgow, Scotland between 1873 and 1887, with a total build-out of 125 locomotives. Although these things were built as 042s from new, the trailing wheels were not much smaller than the driving wheels, to the point where I think the D1 looks like an 060 that's had part of her side rods removed. The D1s were intended for hauling suburban trains in South London, and went on to enjoy a long and successful career. With the arrival of R.J. Billington's D3 class 044 tanks in the 1890s, the D1s were relegated to secondary passenger services, but could also take freight trains as well. As time went on, the engines received various modifications under R.J. Billington and later Douglas Earl Marsh, with modifications including, but not being limited to, new boilers and the addition of coal rails on the bunker. The original batch of Brighton-built locomotives had wooden brake blocks, but from number 268 Baynards onwards, iron blocks were used instead. The first member of the class to be withdrawn was number 3, Battersea, going in 1903, and 11 more would bow out over the next 20 years. By the time of the grouping in 1923, when the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway became part of the Southern Railway, 84 D1s were still in service. 2359, formerly 359 Egmont, was the last of her class in service, not being withdrawn until 1951. After 65 years in service. She was the only member of her class to ever carry a British Railways number, but never actually received a proper BR livery. Sadly, none of the D1s have survived into preservation. CW released their LBSCR D1 add-on in February 2022, and as of mid-October 2025, she is still available to buy from CW's website for £17, or around $39.65 NZD, at full price. This pack doesn't just depict the D1s in their original Stroudley condition, but also includes variants with modifications made under Douglas Earl Marsh, who served as the LBSCR's chief mechanical engineer from 1904 to 1911. The D1s carried a wide variety of liveries throughout their long service lives, and the selection is as follows: LBSCR Improved Engine Green, LBSCR Marsh Umber, Southern Railway Uri Green, SR Maunsell Green, Brighton Shade, Standard SR Maunsell Green, in either early 1930s or late 1930s condition, SR Maunsell Unlined Green, SR Malachite Green, in either lined or unlined condition, SR Unlined Black, in clean or weathered states, and SR Lined Black with a BR number, and again, in clean or weathered states. The modified Marsh condition is available on all of the included liveries except Improved Engine Green, while the original Stroudley condition is only available on IEG, Marsh Umber, Uri Green, and Brighton Shade Monsell Green. Thinking back to the improved engine green livery, this is supplied in 1-digit, 2-digit, and 3-digit number variants, while Marsh Umber is supplied in 2 decal variants, one with the ampersand and one without. Personally, I prefer the LBSC lettering without the ampersand. The D1 is built on Simnation's Locomotion 1.5 scripting, and her list of features includes, but is not limited to, cab light effects, although the engine always loads into a scenario with the cab light on, lump firing simulation, although I forget what that means, Performance Mode Pro, animated rod in the Westinghouse air pump, animated Stevenson valve gear inside the frames, although you can barely see it, even when the engine's in motion, a fully detailed boiler backhead, 3D firebox, numerous cab camera views, and fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat, which is one of my favourite features on a CW engine. There are a sizable amount of details on the D1 that you can customise, with the amount of options depending on the variant you choose. As a demonstration, here is number 22 Addington in improved engine green and original Stroudley condition. On this variant, you can change the brake blocks, clack valve, condensing pipe, and smoke box door details. I always forget what the clack valve does, but the condensing pipe is a different story, and it reminds me of the Metropolitan Railway tank engine in the London Transport Museum. Meanwhile, the variant in Southern Railway Unlined Black, with BR number, only has 3 customisation options in the form of the clack valve, smoke box door details, and coal rails on the bunker. According to the product listing on CW's website, the sounds used on the D1 were recorded by EG Media. That's Chris Eden Green's company, if I'm not mistaken. One thing I noticed was the D1's whistle sounding exactly the same as that which is used on the L class. The overall sound set may not be authentic for either the L or D1, but it's an acceptable compromise given the lack of any preserved examples of either class. If you're after any suitable routes on which to run the D1, one possibility is the Portshaven Branch, as it is set in LBSCR territory and the early 1880s. Another recommendation is the West of England Main Line, which, like Portshaven, is a Golden Age developments route, and I bring up the WAFI because it includes the branch line from Axminster to Lyme Regis. At least 2 D1s were trialled on the Lyme Regis branch in the 1920s, but they didn't fare too well on the sharply curved branch as a result of their rigid wheelbase. The Adams radial tanks, first introduced to the Lyme Regis branch in 1913, were much better suited to the sharp curves, and locomotives 125 and 520, later joined by their classmate 488, kept running on this line right up until 1961. For the longest time, I wasn't interested in the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway D1 class, but I have since taken a liking to this engine. She is ideal for trundling up and down a short branch line with passengers or freight. Alternatively, you can run her on the main line since she can crack along at least 45 miles per hour. Although it's not realistic in the slightest, one line on which I sometimes like to run the D1 is the demonstration line at Barrow Hill, a place that I've visited in real life. The Caledonia Works pack is reasonably priced considering the sheer amount of variants that are included, but it's a pity that we haven't got a special variant of 2357, formerly 357 Riddlesdown, which was sold on to industrial service in 1946, and kept going until 1955. As for where I'd rate the D1 overall, I think she deserves a 7.2 out of 10, and can confidently recommend her to TS Classic players who like British steam locomotives from the pre-grouping era.